Welcome to Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. As we head into Christmas break, today's show is about a few things that we think really matter: education, engagement, and accountability. We're going to talk about why learning doesn't just stop because school is out and we're on holiday break, and why it's important that parents stay engaged over the holiday break and how that can set the tone for the remainder of the school year. We're going to also dig into what's happening right here in Missouri, where more than 300,000 voters spoke out against the gerrymandered maps, and yet, Missouri lawmakers are going to continue to ignore the will of the people and move forward with the maps. And then we'll also dig into the ending of the Obamacare subsidies, or the ACA subsidies, and what that means for working families, and the difficulties ahead.
It's a lot right now.
Absolutely. And then digging into Trump and his behavior, and just the normalization of just that authoritarian behavior in politics. And so we're going to cover quite a few things on today's show, but want to jump right into the education piece, and why it's important that parents stay engaged over the Christmas break.
Well, again, stay engaged in general.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
when you have this extra time, definitely you want to think about the time off and relaxing, and especially if your learner has really been hitting it out the park, then they do need to decompress a bit. But just remember that you are the first teachers, first and foremost, and that learning is universal and not just something that you need to encapsulate to a classroom.
Right.
So, for example, my nephew wants to start driving. So he's 15, he just got his learner's permit, and so now he's ready to drive. But, he's in the car on his phone, 100% of the time. And I'm like, hey, man, what direction are we traveling in? And he's like, I don't know, south. I just throw something out there. I got four options.
Right.
And I'm like, no, east, west, no, west, no, we're going north.
Right.
And then, so, again, so just that basic thing. So what end of town do you live in, Do you live in South Kansas City? Oh, yeah, I do. So are we going towards your house or away from your house?
Right.
Okay. And then so we did that at a few turns, and then sun rises in the east and sets in the west. I didn't get into the fact that, sun doesn't rise.
Right.
We'll just take that and just roll with it.
Just stick with the direction.
So again, hit him with a few more, and then after that we were riding for a while, and then just out the blue he just says east. And we were heading east. And so at that point, I hadn't prompted him. And so again, we got to get our young people off the devices when we're in the car. We have to engage, just look around. It could be something as simple as, I don't know, when I was a kid, I just used to wonder what was happening in buildings. I wonder what they do in there.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
And so just a matter of just when you riding, and then just, hey, kids, just pick a building. We're going to pick a building that seems like we can approach it, and just go see what happens in there. And so now that's not like a formal education, but now you've been informed about maybe some business sector that you hadn't considered, or now you found out some operation, just something off the beaten path that you could go do that doesn't take a lot of time.
Right. And, like you said, a couple of things to that point. Like you said, the directional thing, I used to do that with the kids in the car all the time when they were young. And thinking outside of the box, and how important that is for our young learners. And so I do want to kind of nail down a few specific things that, in your estimation, that parents can take advantage of over the break, relative to, staying engaged.
So again, we think about the drudgery of learning your basic multiplication facts. But then just think about how many songs they actually know and can sing out loud.
Right.
So it's
Boy,
not, they don't have a problem with remembering things. They have a problem remembering things that they're not interested
interested
in.
in.
They have a problem remembering things that they don't see the benefit of. Because again, they know what the X, Y, A, and B button do on the game
Right.
controller. They're not struggling to remember what to do there. So now we have to make what we're talking about as it relates to these basic education facts, multiplication, addition, something that they can cling to. And
Right.
so again, just small rides, just throw some things out. Don't go way out the envelope. Just work on the threes.
Right. Yeah.
And then that's just the conversation. What's 3 times 6? All right. You get back in the car. What's 3 times 6?
Right.
And then you could, then you moved it 3 times 7. And then you moved it. And so you just lock it in, compartmentalize it, so that way you don't have to think about doing all of this heavy lifting, sitting down, creating worksheets. But,
Right, yes.
there's ways that you can start just changing the tide. Another thing that you can do, especially since we're out shopping, is if they're buying gifts for people, actually give them cash.
Right.
I mean, to shop.
Yeah, yes.
And so because that's, again, one of the things that was built in for us, counting money, counting change, how much do I need? But when you're swiping everything, there's not the same calculations that you have to do. So if you just think about just doing a couple of things like that, I think will go a long way. And then again, just make sure you checked on those semester grades too.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, is knowing exactly where they are at. There's one thing to, like you said, look at the grades, but, having that conversation about what those grades mean, and not just relying on the fact that they may have a 3.0 or 3.2, but, because like you said, they can get lost and still be, pushed forward.
Especially if they're good kids.
Right, right.
Again, just going back to something that we didn't consider the same, but as far as learning directions, when my brothers and sisters got in high school, and they went to Southwest, and then you had Westport, and then you had Northeast
yeah.
and Southeast. So we had things that were also just built in that just kind of helped that.
Oh, absolutely. If you rode the buses, you know what I'm saying, you had to know whether or not you were going east or west or north
absolutely.
or south. Yes.
So just basic stuff, because you looking at the wrong route.
Yes.
And then now it's taking you across town.
It's like, wait a minute, I am going away from my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, a lot of things that were built into our day-to-day, we have to really, go to lengths to make sure that our kids are getting some of that. And it can be fun. That's the other thing I think that when we're talking about making sure that our kids aren't tied to the devices, as parents, we have to make sure as well, because all of this technology is great for us as well, and parents are just as locked into those devices as their kids today.
Right, and absolutely, and again, and that's where we have to really take a step back, look at the time that we are spending and wasting in a lot of cases on our devices, and really think about what that might do to education, to playtime, to the length that we were having this conversation about just shortening the clips.
Yes.
And how everything has to be truncated based off of attention spans. And so we have to really look at the landscape. Make your children do something sustained.
Right.
Even if they're not reading the book, just sustain 20 minutes silence in the house.
Yeah.
No, again, you just start, first we're going to start with 10 minutes, right?
Right.
No TVs, no devices, just a book, or either you can draw or just be into your thoughts, but no technology, no sounds, no background music for you to listen to. Then we're going to do 20 minutes. Then just because you have to learn how to be creating original thoughts from within.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to that point, I've been reading this book over the last couple of days. And, a paperback book, and opening up and really being able to engage in the story. And just I really hadn't really enjoyed reading like that in a minute. And it's just one of those things that when you are able to master that, and beyond, like you said, when we're talking about literacy, but really comprehending. And I want everybody to be able to enjoy something simple like, reading a great story and understanding it, and then also allowing your imagination, And so, like I said, a lot of these things are being lost to our devices and to our lack of engagement as parents to trying to unlock some of those things. And
Absolutely.
So like you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, again, because we forget that interesting adults raise interesting young people because they can see your interest or they can see your excitement. And then if you see that in your children, when they get excited about something, then you will tend to try to help that flourish.
Right.
And that was one thing that I can appreciate about our parents was that they were engaged in things, and then they did things, and then things that were reasonable that we wanted to do, we always had a chance to do.
Yeah.
We had like 90, we had everything we needed and a lot of the experiences that we wanted, and about 70 to 80% of the stuff that we wanted.
Right. You
It was
get
more than
all of it. And like you said, I can remember, you might not get the Atari, you might get the Texas Instruments, but you had a game, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, but like you said, I just think it's important that, we really engage as parents and try to unlock some of those things. And the last point I did want to make is, even in the context of them being online, there are things and online tools at your disposal that you can also look at when they are on the devices. Like you said, I know it used to be Khan Academy that still had, things that they could do. And so I'm sure there are, even in the context of them being on the devices, there are things that you can do to help them, progress relative to their education.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing that I'll say is, in addition to taking the feedback from the teachers in the classroom, in addition to taking the feedback that you get from the test and the standardized testing and all of that, have your child work with somebody outside of the classroom that can, and this is not to talk about whether you have a learning disability or not. This is just to see how you approach work.
Yes.
Do you have good numeracy? Is your reading fluent but your comprehension low? Can you comprehend but you just struggle through certain syllable words? I mean, just really have somebody sit with your child and just kind of see how they're moving through the paces. Because again, that was one of the things that, with one of the young people that I'm working with now, there were certain nuanced things that, mom knew, like, nah, we know this.
Yeah.
We've been through this. And it's like, okay. And just like with basic stuff like telling time, again, once it starts to become conversation, then it morphs into another level. So they were having a conversation just right before tutoring about how much time it was before between tutoring and basketball practice, right? And he said the wrong time. And so I didn't know this, but then he comes right in and says, hey, I need to work on my time.
Right. Right.
And then so on the backside, we were having that conversation and she was saying, yeah, he should, know this. And it was like, well, now he wanted to lock it in even more.
Right.
And so, and it wasn't in a punitive type of way.
Yeah, but like you said, I don't want to disappoint, because I know this is the expectation. And like you said, and that's important that you get that sort of reinforcement. And like you said, these are very practical and real world, things that you can do on a day-to-day basis.
Again, quarters.
Yes.
Just talk about quarters when you're talking about fractions. You don't have to go into reciprocals and what the line in between the numbers means, but just if you're watching the game, how many quarters is it in anything?
Yeah, right. and also to your point, which I want to reinforce, is getting a different set of eyes that is focused just on your child in that moment. I think that's another thing that gets lost, is that, like you said, it doesn't mean that they have some sort of disability. they could be doing just fine. This may unlock that next level for them when someone is able to recognize, like you said, the way in which they're learning and processing and things of that nature, because they're only focused on them.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and get this segment wrapped up.
Ooh.
And you're listening to Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And so we are set to go into this story about the gerrymandered map that despite there being over 300,000 signatures with a repeal referendum, Secretary of State Denny Hoskins, in a break from precedent, when the signatures are collected, normally that will put a freeze on the laws. But he's saying, no, we're going to go ahead and push forward. So we're going to listen to some sound on that story, and then we'll come back with some conversation.
Today, Missourians are exercising their constitutional right to a referendum against the House Bill 1, the gerrymander passed by our legislature this last September. We are turning in over 305,000 signatures gathered by over 2,000 volunteers from every single county in the state of Missouri. We are doing this because democracy belongs to the people of Missouri and should be focused on the people's voices and not what politicians want.
The campaign has today turned in signatures to be counted by the Secretary of State. Late last night, a federal judge denied the Secretary's request to enjoin or stop this process of turning in signatures. And so this morning, I think it's 5 trucks pulled up outside the Secretary of State's office and deposited the boxes that you're looking at now. They won't be counting signatures in this first stage. They'll be looking at how many pages are there. They'll then pull out pages to send to local election authorities like county clerks, who will go through each signature page and figure out whether the signature that's on those pages is in fact a signature of a registered voter. So there's a dispute in court right now in Cole County about which signatures should be counted and which should not be counted, and it basically centers around the date on which the Secretary of State looked at and approved the forms. There's a dispute about whether signatures gathered before October 14th will be counted at all, and our position is that all of the signatures of registered voters should be counted.
Once they are all validated and confirmed, Missourians will have a chance to vote on this in November of 2026.
Alrighty, and you are listening to Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And that was some sound. It included, was it Chuck Hatfield and the group, was it People Not Politicians, that delivered over 300,000 signatures to Secretary of State Hoskins' office.
The Secretary's request
opposition
to enjoin
of
or
the
stop.
gerrymandered map. And, this gerrymandering has been taking place across the country.
Right.
You had in Indiana, where their Republicans said, no, no, we're not going to do this, and defied Trump. But the Missouri Republicans were all too happy to go ahead and push forward, all in the name of basically taking the seat from Congressman Cleaver.
Right. Well, I think there's a few things at play here that need to be, spelled out. First and foremost is that who are you representing?
Yes, right.
When you're doing these things, are you representing the will of the state of the people of the state of Missouri, or are you representing the will of the White House?
Right.
And that is where we need to take a big step back and really look at it. And not only that, generally these types of changes take place after a census count.
Yes.
And not in the dead set center of that census count when you do those major changes. And so, again, you ever play when you were kids, you play cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or whatever, and you playing with a kid and you play fair. You shoot, they shoot you, you like, got me. And then you shoot them and then miss. You miss me.
Right.
How is it that we never You know, so that's the equivalent of the mentality that I can akin this to is that you'll change the rules every time. You'll change, oh, okay, well, we used to play on a 90-foot court. Well, how about an 80-foot court?
Right. And well, and to
Your goal is 20 foot. My goal is 8 foot.
right. Well, and to your point, like you said, these are the people who always lean into the Constitution and how that is the Bible, and the Missouri Constitution is very clear when you have this sort of referendum that the law is frozen. And so once again, this is another example of politicians here in the Missouri saying, your vote doesn't matter. I'm not here to represent the will of the people. I'm here to represent whatever particular special interest, is involved in whatever particular issue.
Right, absolutely, and I think that what you said there kind of pairs well with the next video segment that we'll actually look at, and again, where we are and the crunch that everyone is feeling from the decisions that are being made up top.
Yes.
And again, and that they're being made callously as well. As we talk about things being stripped away, because I don't want to. It makes sense with the next clip, but I'll just say this: when you're changing things so radically, again, a lot of these changes are happening right at the time when you know what people are thinking and doing based off of the holiday season.
Yes.
And I mean from Halloween on.
Yes.
You know how consumers spend money.
Yes.
It's
You
not
have it down to a science.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so for the government and for corporations to look at the people the way that they're looking at them at this particular time, this fourth quarter, as disposable, when normally you're looking at them to see how you can clean up that fourth quarter with profits. I don't know, man. It's just not sitting really well, and I don't know how to explain it, but I think that next clip helps, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when you couple that with the fact that corporations are laying people off in a so-called booming economy,
Right.
And the callousness with which even when Trump was asked directly about the extending the Obamacare subsidies, and he was like, I don't know why we would, And so, like I said, it's not funny when we're talking about a 27% increase in premiums.
Right.
And as someone who has a medical condition and who is dependent upon, having health care and coverage, and knowing how expensive it is, and then what little coverage you still have. And so, this is a very, very, frustrating subject that, like I said, I deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so we are going to transition and listen to some frustrated Republicans around what is taking place with the, these subsidies and them expiring, because they know the very real impact, not just politically, because I believe it is going to lead to an absolute slaughter and at the midterms. But what happens between January and the midterms, and for those families that are impacted, you're already having rural hospitals closed and things of that nature. So, like I said, we're going to listen to this sound, and then we'll come back and have some more conversation.
Republican Congressman Chip Roy from Texas just went absolutely nuclear on both sides of the aisle during a hearing tonight on healthcare costs. You got to see this.
And now we're sitting here and we're listening to nonsense about healthcare, where my colleagues on the other side of the aisle sit here saying, well, you guys aren't doing anything about the massive expensive cost of healthcare. Why do you think it's expensive?
Wait for it.
Because you literally cut a deal with insurance companies to run healthcare. You think that's going to run wild? Yeah. That's why they have 2,000% profit increases, and the American people can't afford to go to the doctor of their choice while we enrich insurance companies. And yet Republicans will complain about it And then they'll offer milquetoast garbage like we're offering this week, and then go home at Christmas and say, look at what we're doing. We're campaigning on reducing health care. Well, congratulations. At some
Exactly.
point, people will look at this body and say, maybe we should get rid of all 435 members of the House and all 100 members of the Senate and start over, because Congress is literally failing the American people. I yield back.
Look, I may not like Chip Roy, but the
And you are listening to Changing Narratives with Brother Jay and Brother Brown. And that was some sound from a very frustrated Chip Roy talking about the House and their failure to do anything to stop the expiration of the subsidies.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, there's going to be some very real consequences that families are facing with these higher premiums, and just so many things that it's going to impact.
Yeah, and again, I was kind of reserving part of my conversation until after we had saw that clip, and the big piece there was the idea that corporations, the insurance companies, are, have bought off government. And if you look at who was sitting on the podium or the platform behind the president at his inauguration, it was everything that had to do with big business.
Yes.
He's of the mindset that let's have this new gold card, never mind green,
Yes.
that allows for wealthy people that will come in and continue to do the same thing that other wealthy people do, which is to
Concentrate wealth
and make it harder for the people to do the work. So again, just in that note, you got entire areas, especially around resort cities, where the people that are there to service the folks that are well-to-do can't even afford to live in that city.
Right.
You look at like a Vail, Colorado, where, ski resorts, Aspen,
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. Yeah, the people can't afford to live there to even service. So again, you can see the writing on the wall. And how long do you think that they're just going to camp outside the town so that they could come and serve you coffee or dinner?
Right.
So,
especially when you're saying, don't even let them eat cake. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
You cutting off resources and all these types of things and telling people what they can and cannot eat with SNAP benefits. I mean, what are we doing?
So again, just the idea behind the embeddedness of corporate America with the government, and the reason why Chip Roy said, yeah, we need a fresh slate. We do need a fresh slate with people that are not so entangled.
Yes.
Again, Congress members leave and go become lobbyists for the very firms that they were charged to regulate.
Yes, and that's both parties.
Yes.